I took a janitor job at an old church. There's an old door nobody has opened. Considering how crappy everything pays right now, I was beyond hyped when I found an opening for a night janitor paying $40 an hour. In the rural ass backwater swamp of Georgia. 40 fucking dollars an hour? To clean a chart? My little agnostic heart was ready to pull up for an altar call once they finally hired me. Good God, I see why they pay that high now. It's an easy enough schedule too. I go in after church services or meetings, do some basic cleaning and dip out. Takes maybe 2 or 3 hours every night, and I do an afternoon clean on Sundays between my services. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays I do a couple of late nights and it's all good. They told me that they wanted a more through clean once a week. Whatever day I choose, so I just decided to make my Wednesday nights the long ones. For 40 bucks an hour, I'm not going to skimp either. I go over every goddamn inch of God's good house with a fine tooth comb. I'm in here flipping more tables than Jesus to make sure they're clean. It takes maybe 7 hours or so to go through everything, and it's the easiest money I have ever made. The place is old. From what they told me when I started, it's at least a couple of centuries. Built in colonial times and renovated, rebuilt over the years on the same land. There's a little cemetery out behind it too, though many of the graves are too worn down to read at this point. They haven't had a new resident since the 80s, I think. One big sanctuary makes up most of the place, with a couple of little rooms in the back behind the main altar. A little door on the right side led back into a small hallway that smelled of mildew, with two doors on the left and one at the other end of the hall. Normally it'd look like just your average old Protestant church in the South, except it gets a little weird. The first door on the left is painted blue, not like a regular blue either, but like a bright cerulean. It's both padlocked and deadbolted from the outside though, and on the pastor William has a key to it. When I was talking to the Anita, the treasurer who hired me, she told me she had no idea what was down there, but it was probably just old storage or something. I had to ask her again when she said down there, because we're in the heart of Georgia swamp country. If someone tries to make a basement around here, they're just going to get a room of crumbling mud and humidity. She assured me it was a cellar, though she only was told this by Pastor William. My first Monday night clean went off without a problem. Went in and just ran a vacuum over the floor after a prayer group meeting. Tuesday was off, so I just stayed home and I played Shadow of the Adrity. Wednesday night after service, I went in around 8:30 to start my cleaning. The only person left there was William at this point. But even then, we only briefly passed each other as he was heading out. There was not much to say of the interaction though. We just explained pleasantries and he said he was off to get some shut-eye. I was just desperate to get into the church and out of the swarm heat. I got in, walked to the little supply closet in the back of the sanctuary and pulled out the vacuum. Wednesday night service wasn't very crowded usually, just a few grandmas and the really devoted couple of middle-aged men with their thick study Bibles. So nothing was really dirty. I figured I could just milk the clock a little by dusting around and just fucking about in general. Might as well get some money while I'm here. Vacuumed the sanctuary with no problem and went to go get in the back hallway next. Probably a good time to mention the sanctuary has two sets of lights. one for the front altar area and the other for the actual pews and sitting area. I only had the altar area lights because they were pretty damn bright. Until you get into the hallway at least, then you can barely see because the light only extends a few pews out. Headphones in, music going. I just kept doing my cleaning. Ran down the hall into the office next to the blue door and even got to the pastor's office while I was at it. I didn't really notice anything until I looked up and out the door from the end of the hallway. I could see straight down the beige hall, blue door glowing bright in the floor sand, into the sanctuary. I don't think I have ever felt goosebumps like I did when I looked down that hall. At least 7 or 8 people were sitting in the pews just out of the light's reach. They were all dressed in black, heads bowed so faces couldn't be seen. I had to squint to see them almost, but they were definitely in the first 2 rows outside of the light. I don't know if there was anything behind them. It was much darker, but I was already shook. I briefly closed my eyes and reopened them, but they were still fucking there. And then there was a loud thump on the blue door, like something being thrown hard against it. But there wasn't a sound of it falling down either. I took my attention from the sanctuary to the blue door for just seconds, but it was long enough for everyone in the sanctuary to suddenly vanish. Nothing was there when I looked back, with it looking just like I had left it, not a soul around. I kind of just shook it off as having like a late night heebie-jeebies moment. You know what? Except I finished up right there and started locking up. I have never really believed in any kind of a supernatural. Was religious in my younger days but had since really drifted off. I have always liked horror stuff, but the idea of ghosts and shit in the real world. Please, then I realized I had to turn the lights off at the altar and leave through the main sanctuary door. I swear I'm not scared of the dark, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't creeped out a little. I turned off the lights, saw the moon shining through the stained glass, and immediately got a chill again. It's been nearly 100 degrees with full humidity the past few days, and it felt like I was being dunked in ice water. There wasn't even anything there. I looked around, but there was nothing. Pulled my phone out and turned on the flashlight, making a quick pace toward the front doors. I swear to whatever God you want to hold me to, that there was the sound of footsteps threading along behind me. I swung the door open and practically dived through. Never felt so fucking good to feel swamp heat on my skin. Slammed the damn thing behind me and I started to walk to my car. Then I realized that I didn't lock it. I thought about just not going back, leaving it be until the next person got there on Friday for a prayer group. Then I realized the money I would lose if I didn't do something right and lost this job. Look, rent is fucking high right now, and I've gotta pay bills. So despite everything in me telling me to get the hell out, I turned around to go lock the door. The keys were in my hands, jingling like wine chimes because I was shaking so damn hard. I finally got the key and started to turn it when sound started reverberating from the sanctuary, a chorus with an organ swelling to a crescendo. I turned the key and yanked it out at the same time, and almost taking that doorknob with me and ran the hell out of there. I could still hear it in my car when I started it and whipped out of the little dirt parking lot. Pretty sure I hit the ditch on the way out too, but I'm sure as shit wasn't just going to stop. It wasn't until a few minutes into my drive that my hand finally loosened on the steering wheel and I realized what they were singing. I remember it from going to an old Baptist church with my grandma. They only did old hymnals and refused to use anything but a piano, but I remember the damn words. Nothing can for sin atone, nothing but the blood of Jesus. Nothing but the blood of Jesus. Not of good that I have done, nothing but the blood of Jesus. I asked Anita about it on Friday night when I went in. Made sure I was out by nightfall this time though. She said that she would always thought there were angels around this place, keeping watch over the flock. Don't know how angelic that sounds, but I guess she hasn't been here alone after the dark. When I told Pastor William about the thump coming from behind the blue door, he had the briefest flicker of something on his face. Then it was right back into smiling preacher mood, like fucking baby Billy. Told me there was a problem with possums digging into the basement and not finding their way out. Well, I don't know that I really believe him. That sounded bigger than any possum I have ever seen, even the one that gets into my garbage every night. I started calling round Ronald. No way a possum was going to get that fierce with the door. And finally, they cancelled servicing Sunday, so I was really off, going back in tonight after the prayer meetings and doing a little cleaning. So I will update if there's anything that happens. I want to do the chalk it up to just being in a strange place at night, but there was no way those chills were based on nothing. The shit keeps up, I might start praying while I was not there. Emery Smith. I'll never forget that name and the nightmare it brought me. When I finally turned 18, my parents bought me a tiny home near the college I would be attending. I was more than grateful for that. It meant a lot to me to have my own place. I liked the privacy that came with that, the alone time I had there that I didn't have back when I was living with my parents and three younger siblings. However, I did have a creepy neighbor, Mr. Smith. He was an older guy, kind of scraggly and worn down. He lived right beside me, and our yards were only divided by a chain link fence. He would go outside and just stand in his yard, staring at my house, or walk up and down the sidewalk from his house to the end of mine and back to his. He never walked the full length of the sidewalk. He stood weirdly too, tall and skinny with a hunched back, and he always kept both hands in his pockets. About 6 months into my stay and settling into my place, I noticed Mr. Smith had stopped walking the sidewalk, and I hadn't seen him outside in a few days. I shrugged it off and was actually kind of glad that I didn't have to deal with his weird behavior. 2 more months went by and still I had seen nothing of Mr. Smith. And now, he may be a weird man, but he was elderly, so I thought maybe he had a heart attack or a stroke. I didn't know if he lived alone or not, so I called the police for a wellness check. The police checked his house out. They said he wasn't there, and there were no signs of foul play. They said he probably just moved and didn't say anything to anyone. I thought it was weird, but I didn't think much of it. I was glad that the creepy old man was gone. Well, a few weeks later, I was putting groceries away. When I finished, I went to take a shower. While I was showering, I heard some kind of commotion coming from the kitchen, so I made it quick and headed out there. I looked around and noticed my whole loaf of bread was gone. It had completely vanished. Weird stuff like this would happen all the time. My toothbrush went missing. Toothpaste went missing. My hairbrush, my sweater, my lighters, my blankets, a pillow, more food, and even my damn toaster. Like, come on, everything is going to disappear. It was almost comical until it wasn't. I began to hear heavy breathing, seemingly coming from my walls. Whispers at night or slight chuckles. I could have sworn sometimes a very bright light would flash in my room and then suddenly stop. I could hear what sounded like footsteps, cabinet doors opening and closing. So I called over one of my guy friends from college to stay a few nights with me. So you believe your house is haunted? He asked with skepticism and sarcasm. I sighed and truthfully replied, yes. You'll see after a little while. He stayed for 3 nights, but nothing ever happened. He joked at me and then left. As soon as he left, though, the strange occurrences began. Night after night, I would hear rummaging, walking, whispering, and laughing. The flashes of light continued until I finally got tired of it. I decided to investigate myself. I stayed up late and waited for the noises to happen. This time I followed the whispers and footsteps. I went down the hall, through the kitchen, and into the guest bathroom. That's when I found where the noise was coming from, into my vent. I slowly stood on the toilet and peered into my vent. At first, I didn't see anything, it was too dark. I was about to look away when I noticed something. Eyes opened up, bright blue eyes. I screamed and backed away immediately. I ran out of my house and called the police. When the police arrived, 2 officers came to talk to me while 2 more went inside to investigate. As the officers were talking to me, I watched as the other officers came charging out of my house with Mr. Smith in handcuffs. I passed out after that. I woke up in the hospital. I was fine, just passed out from the blood rush and shock. The horror and disgust overwhelmed me. Had it been watching me this whole time? A little while later, the same 2 officers I had spoken to before came into my room. They told me that the person in my house was indeed a 58-year-old man named Emery Smith. They had searched the vents and found pictures of me and signs of someone living there. My stomach turned as I heard this. I felt as if I was going to pass out again. When I got out of the hospital, I moved back in with my parents. Now I'm 22 years of age, and I don't think I will ever move out again. I played poker on the table of death. I decided to go all in with my life. Just come on, Matt. It's gonna be fun. Ron insisted on me joining the poker table at the end of a dimly lit alley on our way back from the club. You have had one drink too many, you dumb bass. I brushed him aside. We don't know these people and it's night and well. It's a table on the streets. Let's get out of here. Oh God, you were such a chicken. Ron made a chicken sound while flapping his arms before turning away and waking to join the table. Oh, fuck it, I say as I give in and I follow him to the end of the alley where I see the old half-broken wooden round table. 3 people sat at the table who each held an interestingly creepy look. Ron sat to the left of me. To the left of him sat a man who introduced himself as a prisoner and wore a dirty, worn-out orange shirt. To the left of him sat an old, bald lady with broken glasses. She didn't introduce herself, but held the gentle, sweet smile that you would expect from your grandma to have. To the left of her sat a slender young man who looked to be around 20 years of age. He told us that his name was Chad, if you can believe that. He looked like a nerd who would play poker by using some probability formulas in his head. And well, to the left of his was me. Well, I know this whole situation feels crazy. Why are we 2 drunk friends playing poker in an alley with 3 complete weird strangers? I would like to think that it was just Ron's fault for getting me to tag along. But something in the air made me want to play too. The granny, by whom I referred to the old lady, picked up the cards and told us that she would act as a dealer too. However, she momentarily turned her gentle smile into a stern expression and said something that made the alarm bells ring in my head. Only one person leaves this table. You choose to sit down and play. So if you attempt to leave now, you will be shot. And this is sacred. What the fuck? This is so dumb. I'm out of here, I said and got up, but prisoner quickly pulled out a revolver and aimed it at me. "Sit down," Granny said while Ron tugged at my shirt to sit back, and I did. "We all will each have $100. Granny continued. "Whoever runs out of money will die. This will continue until one of us takes it all." "But why?" I asked in an agitated tone that truly reflected how weird I felt, half unsure if this was some sort of weird joke. "Why that and all that? Let's just play normal poker." Granny just smiled her warm smile again, but this time it sent shivers down my spine. Chad answered for me. "Well, sir, you see that we're performing sort of a ritual, and we were short of two people because they did not show up. But you will do," he said with a bland expression. "You will definitely do." And so began our long session of poker, hand after hand after hand. Time fell, stretched out. Night remained unchanged after hours of our play. We all carefully placed our bets and people never seemed to be raised. By this point I was sure that this was no joke, that I could not afford to lose. Thankfully, people started to lose their patience. I knew I just had to hold it together until the others couldn't. Prisoner was the first to go all in all. I folded, of course. Then Granny won. And then Granny took the gun aimed at the prisoner, and with the sweetest smile in the world, she shot him. We continued playing with his corpse still sitting at our table. Chad seemed to calculate all our expressions and probabilities of cards. He was going to be hard to beat, so I thought. Soon enough, Chad and Ron both went all in and showed their cards. Chad had a double ace, while Ron had a two and a three. "You ran out of patience, huh?" I remarked exhaustedly. "Goodbye, Ron. Hope this game was fun for you." "Shut up. I'm not gone yet," he replied with a hate clearly noticeable from his voice. And the granny began to show the cards, ace, five, king. Chad laughed with excitement, which was unexpected because I didn't think he was capable of showing emotion. I just let out a sigh and accepted that my friend was going to die, but I didn't feel too bad. He was responsible for all of this after all. Granny pulls out another card, and it was Queen, and then she pulls out the last one. "Four! I won!" Ron cried out in excitement. "Fucking Chad, to hell with you." Chad reverted to his emotionless face and simply stared into nothingness. Granny aimed her gun at Chad and shot again. Two lifeless bodies on the table now. Two more to go. We played for what felt like days, making small bets so as to not exhaust our reserve. But then I noticed that Ron was getting antsy again. He was raising a lot now, and while me and Granny folded, I knew he was bluffing to gain small advantages. So when he raised me when I had good cards, he doubled, and soon we were all in. "It's one of us now," I spoke with a broken voice. Even though I blamed him for this, he was still the friend that helped me get through tough times. He helped me when my parents died. He helped me when I was broke. He helped me when I was a complete mess and never asked anything in return. He didn't reply, just laid out his cards. I laid out mine. Granny did her thing and I won. I hated that win. I hate it now because I will hate it forever. "I'm sorry," I whispered to him. I looked down and braced for the sound of a gunshot. Three dead bodies now. I looked at Granny, who still held that sweet, warm smile. "Looks like it's just us now," I said, exhaustedly. "Yes, dear, let us continue," she spoke softly. I shook my head. "I'm tired of this. Whatever hand I get, I'm going all in now," I tell her. I did not care then. My friend just died against me and I could do nothing. I'm in the middle of this weird crazy game and the world has somehow stopped. I want it to be gone, dead or alive. I understand, she said and dealt her last hand. She went all in too. We both revealed our cards. I got a king and a queen, but I had them in the same suit. Granny pulled out the cards, and in no time it was evident that I had won with a royal flush. What a way to end this sad, pathetic game. I looked at Granny, and she looked at me. She nodded and put the gun to her chin and pulled the trigger. A table full of dead people, and me, and I lived. I thank God that I got to walk away that day, and hate him for allowing such a game to be played in the first place. And I have stopped playing poker, for obvious reasons. To be very honest, I have stopped living too. That day killed a desire to live within me. I am thankful to be alive, but no longer know what to do with my life. I write this down in hope that this helped me to get over it a little. But deep down I know it's of no use.